Hey guys.
Hey guys.
After what seems like forever, it's time for another Walking Dead review. This time we're reviewing the Season 6 premiere titled First Time Again. If you haven't seen the episode and you want to avoid any spoilers, you're going to want to skip this video and come back later because everything we say from this point forward is going to be a spoiler. So this episode has been billed as the biggest episode ever. And as far as the work level of the production crew, absolutely biggest episode ever.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this episode.
Just the massive number of walkers, more walkers than we've ever seen before. And because of that, the level of tension was super high throughout the episode, even though, there was no real major threat until near the end.
Yeah. But it was still like, anytime you have a herd of walkers like that, you're just on edge because you're like, anything could go wrong.
Yeah. Like literally every character was in danger for the entire episode.
Yes.
So from Season 5 to Season 6, there's not very much of a time jump. And it feels, a lot of times like there's not any time jump because we get these flashbacks throughout the episode. And what I really liked was they did the flashbacks in black and white.
Yeah, that was really, really interesting. The only thing that I didn't like is that it was almost so many flashbacks that it was like half the episode was black and white, and so it kind of lost some of the appeal, for me anyway, being that half of the episode basically was black and white. I would have preferred them to start a little bit sooner and have less of the black and white, that way it kind of held the intensity.
I really loved the black and white. It harkened back to me to Night of the Living Dead, the first zombie movie basically ever, and probably my favorite zombie movie ever. So just the similarities there in the style, I really enjoyed that. Most of the episode centers around Morgan and Rick and kind of getting a feel for each other again and getting to know each other again. But the interesting thing is they do it a couple times. They're like, I know you. Yeah, we're meeting again for the first time. But they still have this rapport and this affection for each other and this friendship.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is that, Rick kind of keeps reiterating that I've changed, I'm not the same person, we can't do things how we used to, and Morgan's like, no, you're still the same Rick. Yeah, things are different, but you're still you, I know you.
And this really gets hammered home a couple of times. When they go to bury Pete, Rick initially, he's talking about, why don't we just leave him here? And then after they see the big herd and they have their whole thing with Ron, they come back and Rick, he initiates it. He starts digging. And so, again, Morgan was right. He does know Rick. Yeah. And then again, when they busted Carter talking about killing Rick, Rick could have put him down. He would have been completely correct in doing so, but he backed off.
And Morgan kind of tells him, that's you. You may have changed, but that decision, that's still the Rick I knew in the beginning.
But after Rick puts down Carter, after Carter gets face eaten off, Morgan seemed like he wasn't exactly down with how that all happened. And that caught me a little bit off guard because Rick didn't have a choice there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was trying to figure out, why is Morgan, looking at him like that, like he was doing the wrong thing? Because, one, Carter didn't have to suffer through that in turn. That would have been horrific. He was going to die anyway, and he was actually now threatening the entire society. Yeah. So Rick did exactly what needed to be done, and it was kind of surprising that Morgan didn't see it that way.
Yeah, Morgan's reaction to that, it just kind of threw me off. I'm like, all right, well, where is Morgan mentally and emotionally? Yeah. Because it seems like maybe, he's totally zen now. We know that from just the bit we got from him last season. But yeah, just his reaction after Rick put Carter down. I'm like, all right, what's going on in Morgan's head? Why is he so, I don't know, just appalled kind of at what Rick did? Because Rick had no choice.
Yeah, there was zero option there.
Some of my favorite scenes in this episode featured Carol, and she wasn't in it a whole lot.
No, she wasn't, which was kind of sad.
But
but when she was, it was amazing.
When she was, she stole the scene, every scene she was in.
I am loving how, essentially Rick has control of the group technically Deanna's still in charge, and it actually seems like Rick wants it that way. Like the rest of the community will follow if they still think she's in charge, but really it's Rick, because whatever Rick says, she does.
Yeah.
And even though they've kind of inserted themselves into the community and Rick is basically running things, Carol's still playing that cowardly, meek person that she was in the beginning. And I think it's still for the same thing. They are not completely 100% in with this group yet.
Yeah.
And so she needs to do that because they need to underestimate her.
Yeah.
And that's going to be hard come next episode, because from the little sneak peek we get, Carol's going to have to be her true self.
Yeah, she's going to have to kick some ass next episode.
Yeah. And what's also really awesome and kind of surprising is Morgan sees right through her act.
Yeah.
He is not convinced at all. He even asks her when they're speaking, "Oh, you're Carol, right? So were you a cop with Rick?" And she's like, "Why would you think so?"
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. He's like, "'Cause you're always looking. You're measuring the scene, always."
And, Morgan, he's very, very perceptive.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of caught Carol off guard. I want to see those two interact more. Okay, Glenn and Nicholas. Nicholas was probably the character I hated the most last season,
Yeah.
with the exception of maybe Pete Porchdick. But Nicholas was a close second, if not a tie.
Yeah. Nicholas was terrible.
But he's starting to come around. Like, I'm warming up to him a tiny, tiny bit.
Yeah.
And just like Glenn, I mean, I mentioned the audience at large is kind of in Glenn's boat. Like, you stay over there, don't get anybody killed, we'll work you in when we can. So Glenn and the audience are kind of in the same here. It's just pretty cool. I think Glenn just being Glenn kind of shamed Nicholas into straightening out.
Yeah, like Nicholas tried to kill him, and Glenn doesn't kill him, brings him back, and then invents a story so that he doesn't get banished.
Yeah.
And I think he's now ashamed of himself and his behavior, and he realizes that Glenn is a person that he will never be, that he is not good enough to be.
That, or he is fully aware, which he's got to be, that he is like this close to being banished. So maybe he's got to be on his best behavior.
Maybe.
Just kind of sucking up to Glenn a little bit, maybe, to prevent, to just keep Glenn and Maggie and now Tara from ratting him out. Yeah. And moving on to Abraham, it looks like Abraham might be going crackers.
Yeah, a little bit.
He runs out, like he totally is thriving in this new environment. We saw it a little bit last season when they were on the construction site and he saved the day. Well, in this episode, there's like one of those heat blankets, one of those aluminum foil looking heat blankets, and it's caught in a tree and it's distracting all the walkers from leaving the road. And he goes out there and he clears it all up and he jumps back in the car and he's totally just more alive than probably we've ever seen him. And the guy's losing it.
Yeah, he's we've noticed a lot of things since they got to Alexandria. He's drinking a lot more than he used to. And he is totally becoming an adrenaline junkie. He is thriving off of this. And it all goes back to when he found out that Eugene wasn't legit. And I don't know what's going to pull him out of this funk or if he's ever going to get pulled out of this funk. But I kind of think him pairing up with Sasha is kind of helping Sasha.
Yeah.
Because I think she's seeing herself in him and realizing how crazy she's been and how not herself she's been.
Like, I really love, probably actually my favorite moment in the episode was their interaction, Abraham and Sasha. When he asks her if the reason she's volunteering to play this particular role in luring the super herd away is if she's planning to die. And she gives him this smile and she just goes, no. And I loved that moment. It was just this moment between them. They bonded, and I really liked it. His emotional state right now is really interesting. I hope that gets developed more because I want to see more and find out exactly what's going on in his mind.
Yeah.
Okay, for comic book readers, it is clear that we are set up now for the No Way Out arc, and it differs from the way it happened in the comic book by a lot. I mean, in the show, some kind of horn is going off and drawing the walkers toward the town. And it sounds like a semi-horn or something. Is that like an alarm that Alexandria has, or is it the wolves? Do they know what the group is doing? And
Yeah, it did sound like a semi-alarm, or semi-horn, but, I mean, we live in Florida, so I've never really heard a tornado warning alarm system. So, I mean, could one of those be malfunctioning and that's what they're hearing? Does Alexandria have an alarm system for some reason that was built into the town prior to, the walkers and stuff like that? Who knows, but I want to know. I do hope we get to see what the horn is. I hope that they explain that and don't just leave us wondering.
There's this random horn / alarm, and we have no idea really where it's coming from. Rick and the gang have no idea where it's coming from.
Oh, shoot.
But the super herd is making a beeline for Alexandria.
Yes.
So in a major shift away from the comic book, we're doing No Way Out before the wolves. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like is that you can read the comics and watch the show, and it's almost like two different versions of the same story. And it's amazing because reading the comics doesn't always necessarily prepare you for what's going to happen in the show.
Yeah.
A lot of things are different.
All right, we'll do our predictions for next week's episode tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. If there was anything from the episode that you think we should have talked about that we didn't, let us know in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this review, and we certainly hope you did, be sure to let us know by clicking that like button and subscribe for more reviews.
And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.